The Blair Witch is directed by Adam Wingard and is the direct sequel of the found footage film from 1999 titled The Blair Witch Project. This film picks up 15 years after the original and centers around a young man named James, who's actually the younger brother of Heather from the original Blair Witch Project. He finds some footage online of the Blair Witch sort of filmography documentary and sees what he thinks is his sister, so he decides, along with his group of friends, to go out into the woods and find out if his sister is still alive and what happened to her. Now, I'm no fan of found footage films whatsoever. I really dislike them, but given the hype surrounded this one, especially with the reveal at Comic-Con earlier this year, it was originally titled The Woods, then it premiered at Comic-Con, and they actually turned out to be a Blair Witch film. So there was a lot of hype and speculation around this, so I kind of wanted to see it just based on that, but I wasn't overly excited about it. I did, however, go into this film with pretty low expectations. I didn't really expect a whole lot from this film. Like I said, it's a found footage film, not really what I'm into very much. I wasn't sure if it was a sequel or a reboot, so I was kind of unsure about that. And also, it's a horror movie, which isn't really my favorite genre, but horror's actually done really well this year with The Conjuring 2, Lights Out, and Don't Breathe, which unfortunately I haven't seen yet. Still waiting on you, Vicky. But I do have to say that this film was surprisingly good. Maybe just because I saw it with low expectations, I'm not entirely sure. But without getting into spoilers, this film definitely added a lot to the mythos of the Blair Witch. It added a lot of cool elements that I thought were actually really, really interesting. But I think the filmmakers deliberately didn't tell you a whole lot about these new things during the film, that you sort of had to piece it together yourself. And I thought that was kind of part of the adventure, which I thought was really, really fun. And although it's a horror movie, I like putting things together in puzzle pieces. So being able to construct what the real story of the Blair Witch is, what happened in the original film, what's happening in the current film, it all just pieces together very nicely. And I think it was definitely a well-built sequel to the original. However, these little details and hints are dropped so sporadically throughout the film and so slightly that it's kind of hard to catch them unless you've seen the original or if you're really paying attention. Also, the way that this film is directed and sort of put together, the events that happen in the film feel very familiar to the original, which also may have been pretty deliberate, I'm not sure. There were plenty of other things I also didn't like about the film. I don't want to get into all the things I like about the film because a lot of it has to deal with spoilers, and really I don't want to get into all that. Let's just say it adds a lot to it, and then I think it's really, really cool. Now the negative stuff, I just felt like it felt a little too familiar, like I said. Also, I just didn't like the cameras that they were using as like their perspective for each individual character. They had like these douchey like Bluetooth little earpiece camera things, which by the way has amazing quality. I don't know what cameras these are, but I thought they had pretty good quality even though it's a found footage film. I felt like those little pieces had a pretty awesome quality. I mean, even some DSLRs don't get that quality, so I don't know what they were using. The overuse of jump scares was also a pretty big negative to me. They used the same gimmick probably, I honestly lost count because they did this jump scare so many times of someone being panicked in the woods and then somebody jumping and like, hey, what's going on? That kind of thing. They did that so many times that I lost track. And honestly, after a while, I wasn't even scared anymore. Even with what happened in the end of the film, I just wasn't scared because all the jump scares took all of that away from me. Also, the stereotypical location and stereotypical characters kind of got on my nerves a little bit, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here.
Y'all ready for this?
I just feel like as time passes, new ideas are cast away in films. I just feel like we just keep falling into the same stereotypes, and we watch the same things over and over, and we still go pay to see the same thing over and over. For example, the stereotypes in the location. I'm kind of tired of movies in the woods. I'm done with it. I think a lot of films that are focused on like suburban areas or like big cities are a lot scarier because those are things you deal with in real life. I don't go camping. I've lived in cities my entire life. I've only been camping like once in my entire life. And I don't really like the woods. Not that it creeps me out. It is creepy out there. But I'm just tired of seeing the same group of people in the same scenario. Always some creepy thing in the woods. There's a building, a structure, a cabin, something. always the same story, and I'm just tired of paying to see movies that have the same story. But that is for a whole different rant, which I may do in the future. Another part of this rant has to do with the stereotypical casting and stereotypes as far as the characters go. It baffles me that in 2016 there are still a ton of racial stereotypes, especially in movies. I mean, horror movies are probably the worst offenders of all of the stereotypical genres. And although this may have been done subtly and maybe not even on purpose, the main female black character is the one that gets hurt first. The main male black character is the one that dies first. Like, I feel like in 2016 we should be able to have a male or female black character in any genre, horror, whatever, and they can survive and not get hurt and be the heroes of the film rather than being the ones that get hurt or die first. And on that note, why all the white characters are always like the most level-headed, the most calm, the ones who are trying to stay the course and are trying to get through whatever situation they're in. I just don't get it. I mean, in the world that we live in, it's a mix of everyone, and yet we keep still following this same stereotype in all these movies and all these genres. Can't we just change it a few times just for the novelty? I mean, yeah, sure, Taye Diggs did survive in House on Haunted Hill, LL Cool J survived in Deep Blue Sea, and Ice Cube survived in Anaconda, but really, that's about it. I mean, unless you want to count like Samuel L. Jackson on Snakes on a Plane as a main black character surviving a tragedy or horror type of film, there's really nothing out there that actually sets a new trend. I feel like if some studio, company, whatever, could make a film where there's a black hero character, male, female, I don't care, who can survive the film, be a main character, not just be a side character who dies, gets cut, what have you, gets murdered first, anything like that. I feel like if they can make one that's the main character, survives the whole thing, maybe this tragic event is happening to them, I feel like that would be something that would be worth watching, and I would love to watch that movie, but they just keep making the same movies over and over. I just think that would be something refreshing to see. Again, sorry for the rant, but let's get back to the review. The grade I'm going to give The Blair Witch is a B. As I said, The Blair Witch is actually pretty surprisingly good. You don't actually have to see the original Blair Witch to understand what's happening in this film. You can still sort of piece it all together, which is kind of nice. You don't have to be like some person who's been on the bandwagon this entire time. You can just watch the movie and have a good time. But again, it does falter from some of the stereotypical stuff, and it also does a lot of good things for the mythos of the Blair Witch Project as a film franchise, which again, I don't want to spoil here, but it definitely gives a lot more meat and a lot more weight to the overall story, and I found myself pretty interested by the end of this film. So for you horror fans who hopefully can get past yet another found footage film, I think you'll enjoy it. For those of you who are the faint of heart or maybe a little bit motion sick, I probably wouldn't recommend this film. It wasn't as shaky as I thought it was going to be until towards the end, but it was definitely pretty shaky, and I wish that I just don't like found footage films, I'm sorry. But it just sort of, is there. But I did like it. It actually surprised me, so I gotta give it a pretty passing grade on this one. So guys, that's my review for The Blair Witch. If you've seen it, let me know it down in the comments below. Also, while you're down there, let me know what your favorite found footage film is. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Also, while you're down there, hit that big subscribe button so you can be sure to follow me for some new content every time I upload it. Trying to be a little bit more regular with it, but sometimes I just don't get to the movies and stuff as often as I should. But with some new stuff that's coming out recently, hopefully I'll be able to do more videos. And as always, don't forget to share these videos. Share it with your friends, your family. Shout it from the rooftops if you have to. Just get it out there, let people know if they like movies, if they like horror movies, if they like just listening to some guy talk about random stuff for a little while. I'm your fella. So definitely don't forget to share these videos as well. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.